Welcome to Video Podcast number 35. And this podcast is going to follow the format of my last few podcasts. I'm going to give a portion that's going to be free to the general public, and the remaining portion is going to be exclusive to my Patreon.com subscribers. And I think you know, by the way I just gave you the look I gave you. Yeah. The free portion is going to be directed at some motherfuckers. But as I do on my show, I rarely, if ever, point out specific names unless I feel like it's absolutely need to. But now, as you know, well, I'll tell you the general. My free portion is going to be pretty much a rant and me just breaking some shit down like I do, Alan Roger Currie style. And my exclusive portion for Patreon subscribers is going to have to do with sex talk, creating your own openings to introduce sex talk in the conversation. Both identifying openings that women present you with, and then or creating your own openings. So that's going to be the exclusive portion. That's going to be for my $10 Patreon subscribers, my $10 tier Patreon subscribers. As always, all my relevant and important links are in the description section below. You can provide me with public feedback below. A word on public feedback in a second. Public feedback below. And you can give me private feedback through my Facebook pages or through my email, coaching@mode1.net. coaching@MODEONE.net. Now, as I anticipated from my last two podcasts, I knew I was going to get some blowback, both publicly, privately, and otherwise. Because, you know, there's a lot of guys who subscribe to this MGTOW philosophy. Again, MGTOW, for those who are ignorant to it, stands for men going their own way. Before I get to that, you know I gotta shine. This is my shit. This is my shit. I love this stuff. This is the beverage equivalent to crack cocaine for me. Vitamin Water Zero. People are clamoring for Vitamin Water Zero to give me a contract, and I think they should. Yeah, I think they should. Excuse me. Now, some people are so predictable. First of all, there's an article I wrote related to my next to last podcast, the one entitled MGTOW versus Hardline Alpha Males versus Eternal Bachelors. I wrote an article in the Negro Manosphere, which is posted below. Okay. There's at least 3 or 4 things I want to cover in this free portion before I move to my exclusive portion. Number one, on the MGTOW feedback. As I pointed out in my video podcast, as well as my article, some people were intelligent and objective-minded enough and perceptive enough to realize I didn't really attack the entire MGTOW nation. There was 2 factions that I said from the outset that I have no problem with, which is the faction of MGTOW that believes in totally avoiding any and all social interactions with women, platonically, romantically, sexually. Basically, the guys who want to be modern day monks. They want to be asexual or indefinitely celibate. I don't have a problem with that faction of MGTOW. More power to you. I don't, on a personal level, I don't agree with that, but if that's what you want to do, more power to you. Second faction of MGTOW I don't have criticisms of is the guys who are MGTOW who say that they either semi-regularly or occasionally engage in short-term non-monogamous sex with women, but only if the woman makes the first move. Only if the woman is pretty much the initiator of the social interactions. And she's the one that makes it known that she wants to engage in sexual activities with the guy. That faction of MGTOW, I don't really have any harsh criticisms of. The main to rehash, without getting into full detail, the main faction of MGTOW I have problems with is guys who have come in my comment section, and I've seen them in other people's comment section, that basically try to present themselves as a womanizing MGTOW. A womanizing MGTOW. And what I'm basically saying in simple terms is, you calling yourself a womanizing MGTOW is like me calling myself a chicken wing eating vegan or a pork chop eating vegan. That's how I look at it. That is exactly how I look at it. You calling yourself a womanizing MGTOW is like me telling people I am a pork chop eating vegan and a chicken wing eating vegan. And just really a meat eating vegan, period. Now, of course, if I tell people I'm a meat eating vegan, how are they going to look at me? Like I've lost my goddamn mind is how they're going to look at me. And I hate when these things keep coming up. Because that's a blatant contradiction in terms. It's oxymoronic. See, men say that initially they were going this way, right? They were going this way. Then all of a sudden they went their own way. Matter of fact, I think that's the logo for MGTOW. It shows a path going upward and then another path deviating and going, you know, its own way. So I'm asking you, womanizing MGTOWs, if you're still trying to fuck women, what different path are you on compared to the path you were on originally? What different path are you on if you're still trying to actively fuck women? How are you different? In what way? In terms of your actions and behavior, in what way are you different if you're still trying to fuck women? Some MGTOWs say, well, I'm not trying to actually marry the women I'm fucking. So? There's a lot of guys who don't subscribe to MGTOW who are trying to fuck women that they ain't trying to marry, including myself. So, scratch that off the table. Well, I ain't trying to engage in a long-term monogamous relationship, period. So, how does that make you go in your own way? Most of the women I fuck, I ain't trying to be in no long-term monogamous relationship with them. And I don't subscribe to MGTOW. So how does that make you different? How are you different? Scratch that off the table. Well, I ain't trying to have no children with them. Neither am I. And most womanizing alpha males I know are not trying to intentionally have children with most of the women they're trying to fuck. So what separates you from a womanizing alpha male? What I call in my book, The Beta Male Revolution, a total alpha male. What makes you different? Huh? In terms of your actions and behavior. What makes you different? How you behave towards women. What makes you different? What makes you different? What's the separation between a womanizing MGTOW and a womanizing alpha male? Because there is no such fucking thing as a womanizing MGTOW. That's what the difference is. It ain't no fucking difference. Because it ain't no such thing as no womanizing. Other than in your own delusional mind, for some of you guys who call yourself red pill, I thought red pill was being in touch with reality. But some of you MGTOW guys, some of you, I don't want to say all, I don't want to say most, some of you MGTOW guys are some of the most delusional motherfuckers I've ever come in contact with. Some of the most unrealistic and delusional motherfuckers I've ever come in contact with. Delusional as fuck. So what makes you so separate? This path you going, that's different from the original path. What's different? Okay, we already scratched off the table. You ain't looking for marriage. We already scratched off the table. You ain't looking for long-term monogamous relationships. We already scratched off the table that you ain't looking to have kids with women. Well, I'm going to dictate my own behavior. I ain't going to let women dictate me. That's what any alpha male does. Any true alpha male does that. So what separates you from them? Huh? What? Huh? What? If you was really true to all this shit, you would just call yourself an alpha male, more specifically a womanizing alpha male, instead of calling yourself MGTOW. Look at me. Look at me. Get real with yourself, man. You know you're a romantically, sexually frustrated beta male. You know that's what you are. And I'm in business to help a lot of you guys. But I ain't going to help you whiny, complaining types. I don't want you guys as clients. You motherfuckers is always whining and complaining. Somebody asked me recently, they said, Alan, what do you think is the difference between legitimate, valid criticisms against women and whining, as what you call whining and complaining? Simple. I've said it before. If you go to a fast food restaurant and they got a sign on the wall that says, we deliver your order in 5 minutes or less, but the last 3 out of 5 times you went there, you had to wait 8, 9, or 10 minutes for your order. What does that mean? That means that fast food facility misrepresented themselves. Therefore, you have a legitimate criticism. If you buy a used car and it says it has 1,500 miles on it, but you find out that somebody at the car dealership rolled back the odometer and that car actually has 7,600 miles on it, you got the grounds for legitimate complaint because they misrepresented the used automobile that they sold you. If you read my book, The Possibility of Sex, again, which is the book that attracted a lot of MGTOW types to me, most of the women I criticize in that book are women who misrepresent themselves to men. Key word, misrepresent themselves. So when a woman misrepresents herself to you, so let's say she convinces you she's not a materialistic type woman, but days, weeks, months into the relationship with her, she ends up revealing that she very much is a very highly materialistic woman. You got a right to criticize that woman because she misrepresented herself to you. Here's when you're whining and complaining. If a woman never told you that she wasn't going to exhibit XYZ behavior, and you criticize her for exhibiting XYZ behavior, you are whining and complaining. So using the materialistic example, if a woman pretty much lets you know from the get-go that she's a materialistic type woman and a high maintenance type woman, and you choose to deal with her anyway, but then you reach a point where you can't take her materialistic ways and you start calling her a gold digger and all that type of shit, brother, that's on you. You chose to deal with this woman. Nobody forced you to. Nobody had a gun to your head. You chose to deal with that woman. And now you're frustrated because you thought you would be able to provoke a change or improvement in her behavior, but you weren't able to. Now you're frustrated. Now you're whining and complaining like a little bitch. Like a bitch. That's whining and complaining. I think even a 5th or 6th grader can understand the delineation between legitimate criticisms against women's various aspects of women's behavior and whining and complaining. If a woman never told you she wasn't going to be selfish, if a woman never told you she wasn't going to be a bitch, if a woman never told you she wasn't going to be hard to get along with, and you criticize about those things anyway, that makes you a whiny fucking bitch. Look at me, son, when I'm talking to you. That makes you a whiny bitch. And I don't want whiny bitches as clients of mine. If you're a whiny bitch, you go follow some other PUA or dating coach or seduction guru. I don't work with whiny bitches. Speaking of whiny bitches, I got a guy who loves to mention my name in his video podcast. He's the whiniest of the whiny bitches I know. This motherfucker promoted my books for about a year and a half. Promoted my books. Begged me to promote my books. Begged me to promote my books. Said he wanted to help me out. Been promoting all my books, particularly The Possibility of Sex and The Beta Male Revolution. And he's promoted to a lesser degree Mode 1. I don't think he's ever promoted Who Said Again. And that makes sense because he has no verbal seduction skills. This motherfucker had the nerve to do a podcast. He did a rebuttal to my MGTOW podcast. I listened to it. I even wrote some comments on his comment section. No big deal. He comes out with a podcast today. I'm not going to say his name. I don't get into saying them names to draw traffic to his site. But check this out. This motherfucker had the nerve to refer to me as juvenile and sophomoric. Let me repeat that. This YouTube host referred to me as juvenile and sophomoric. Now, this is a YouTube host who prides himself on not using ad hominem attacks, personal jabs, and the like. That sounds like a personal jab to me. That sounds like a personal jab to me. He called me. Now, again, the $1 million question is, if I'm juvenile and sophomoric, why did this motherfucker promote my books for over a year and a half? You couldn't put a gun in my head to promote the books of an author who I perceive as being juvenile and sophomoric. Ain't nothing about the content of my books changed. When he was promoting my books, did he call me juvenile and sophomoric? No. Now all of a sudden I'm juvenile and sophomoric. What has changed about the content of my books? I bet he can answer that question. Why is this man, which I get a text message to prove it, why is he asking me what my zodiac sign is? Now I can't speak for a lot of you other guys, but I never, as a heterosexual man, asked another heterosexual man what the fuck his zodiac sign, because I don't give a fuck. 90% of the time, I don't give a fuck what a woman's zodiac sign is. But this motherfucker, a few months ago, asked me, Alan, what's your zodiac sign? I want to do research on your zodiac sign. Well, I think he said he thought I was a Sagittarius. What kind of motherfucker, heterosexual motherfucker, asks another heterosexual motherfucker what his zodiac sign is? I want some of you to marinate on that. This same motherfucker promote my books for a year and a half. Now you gonna call me juvenile sophomoric. Gonna ask me what my zodiac sign. Nigga, you wanna suck my dick? What do you wanna do, man? You been jacking off looking at my pictures or something? You got a shrine at your crib with me all over it? Let me see some pictures of the women you interact with. You've seen at least 1 or 2 pictures of the quality of women I deal with. My close friends know how I roll. People know the quality and caliber of women I deal with. I ain't never seen no pictures of you with no woman. Are you a heterosexual? Answer that question, Mr. YouTube whiny host, Mr. Weaponized Bachelorhood, the king of talking about black female fuckery. Let me see some pictures of you. Let me even see a picture of you without your fucking glasses on. Why you hiding behind sunglasses and shit? I evaluate motherfuckers by looking in their eyes, man. I look at people's eyes. That's how I evaluate people, men and women. So you gonna talk shit about me, juvenile sophomoric? I want all your listeners to ask you the question, if I'm so juvenile sophomoric, why would you promote my books like you was my bitch? That's what I want to know. Your contradictory ass. Your books sell themselves. Then why are you trying to help me sell them then? If they sell themselves. You contradictory motherfucker. You overweight motherfucker. You need to get in the gym and work out. That'll help you pull some quality women, you fat fuck. Don't ever talk shit to me. You ain't no Daisy motherfucker. I'm your Huckleberry, bitch. Don't ever fuck with me, boy. Don't ever fuck with me. Dude, you are messing with the wrong dude, because I'll make you look stupid every time. I ain't like these other motherfuckers you don't went after. Why? Because you promoted my shit for 18 plus months. That's why I separate myself from all the other people you went after, dude. Now, for my most loyal clients and followers and fans, I'm sorry you had to hear that rant. But you know, Alan, two things I let come out when it needs to be is my ego and my emotions. When people get me riled up, and sometimes I think that's what people intentionally want to do, yeah. So if that was his intention to get me a little riled up, he got it. But I want him to answer them questions. If I'm an author that's so juvenile and sophomoric, why was you promoting my books like you was my personal bitch? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. And then here's my final part of the rant, and then I'll segue into my exclusive for Patreons, which never includes any rants. That's the good thing about being a Patreon. You'll have to hear the portion that's for exclusive Patreons. I don't do any ranting. Now, one of the things that this same YouTube host, and I've had other people in his defense, he ain't the only one who's done this. I used to have this guy on Facebook. I'll call him Peter. He was from the Czech Republic. He used to always try to challenge me on different stuff to do with my dating advice. And his main thing was, Alan, I'm not sure if I can co-sign with what you said because there's no evolutionary psychologist that backs it up. I would need to read scientific data and research evidence that an evolutionary psychologist can confirm and validate your assertions and your opinions and blah, blah, blah. Man. When I spoke in London, in, as you know, the very first direct dating summit, I'm going to give a compliment and a criticism of the guys in our audience in London. There was a lot of guys, probably about, I don't know, I think it was about 350, 400 guys. I don't think I met any guy that weekend in London that was unintelligent, that lacked intelligence, that was just like a dumbass, a knucklehead. Just about all the guys who came to London to hear me speak, to hear David X speak, and all the other speakers, they were reasonably intelligent guys. I would say a good percentage of them were in possession of a PhD, master's degree, and a minimum undergraduate degree, bachelor's degree of some sort. So that's the compliment. But if you're familiar with a lot of sayings, there's a saying that sometimes you can be too smart for your own good. Sometimes you can be too intelligent for your own good. See, I'm trying to think of some good analogies. I don't know if this is going to be the best analogy, but I know I'm a movie buff. And one of my favorite movies was a movie called Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy. That's the movie that really, truly catapulted him to fame. And if you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie. I saw that movie actually 5 times at the movie theater. But the gist of that movie is Eddie Murphy plays this Detroit cop, and one of his friends gets murdered. And he finds out that the person murdered him lives in Beverly Hills. So he goes out to Beverly Hills to seek out the person who murdered his friend. And he ends up trying to do a collaboration with the Beverly Hills police force. But the problem is, which provides for a lot of entertaining moments throughout the film, Eddie Murphy is a cop who goes by his instincts. Put emphasis on that word. He's a guy who operates on his instincts. He's not so much a by-the-book type police officer and police detective. He goes by his instincts. Whereas all the Beverly Hills policemen, they're by the book. They're real rigid. They go by the book on everything. You know, they want to go everything by code and policy and that type of thing. And Eddie Murphy's attitude throughout the whole movie is essentially, man, fuck you. Fuck how you're a formal training. Fuck all your guidelines and policies. Dude, I operate on my instincts. Take that away from the world of police officers, police detectives, and apply that to dating coaches. See, I'm a motherfucker. I do shit with women on my instincts. Matter of fact, I did at least one previous video podcast where the hashtag was your inner animal. And I was saying that the two main influences of our behavior is our social programming, which is the sum of all the knowledge we've gained, the societal brainwashing we've absorbed, all the advice we've gotten from mommy, daddy, and other people in society. And then we have our raw core animal instincts. Now, I say with all due respect to guys who have made it their career, I don't ever like to disrespect or undermine anybody's career. So for those guys who genuinely are evolutionary psychologists and the like, and who do all this data research, more power to you. But that's a totally different animal than what I do. If you read any of my books, you ain't gonna see no scientific citations. Because I don't believe in that bullshit. That ain't what I do, man. Because here's the deal. It's like I was watching this I can't remember what it was. It was a show to do with the NBA, and they were talking these NBA players. And these NBA players were talking about how they used to play against the great Michael Jordan. And they were saying all these people who would work for their team would have all these really detailed pre-game scouting reports, like on all of Michael's tendencies. You know, like when he gets near the foul line, he's likely to do this. When he's on the right side of the lane, he's likely to do this. When he's on the left side of the lane, he's likely to do this. And a couple of the NBA players joked that if you were to read these scouting reports, you would think delusionally that at the beginning of the game you were going to be able to stop Michael Jordan, because these scouting reports had analyzed almost every tendency he has. But they laughed and basically said, man, once you get on the court, them scouting reports don't mean shit. They don't mean shit. Because shit is happening in real time. They don't mean shit. That's how I feel about the type of advice I give versus what you might read in some book that's full of all this scientific data. And this is one of the things me and David X talked about when we were in London. We had certain guys in the audience that would want to say, well, Alan and David, the things you're saying, they sound great, but can any evolutionary psychologist confirm and validate what you're saying? And our attitude was basically like, man, motherfuck scientific data. You think I got my dick sucked in a grocery store, which this YouTube proposal says is juvenile sophomoric to talk about, because I read somebody's book about evolutionary psychologists? I operate on my motherfucking instincts. I know when I can get a woman's pussy wet. I know when I can get a woman's pussy wet. It's like my brother, man. My own brother teased me one time. We were in San Diego. This was probably about 20 years ago. Remember there was this video podcast I was saying that some women I've dealt with. You notice my eyes on the cover of Mode 1, and that's the logo, is my eyes. And I talked about how some women have said when I go into seduction mode and sexual mode, they'll say, Alan, sometimes your eyes are like a wolf. And my brother, he even said that one time. I never forget, we was at this club, and I started dancing with these two women at the same time. And I went into seduction mode. And my eyes just became very focused. You ever see like an animal in the jungle, like a panther? when they get their eyes on their prey, how their eyes become just ultra focused? Huh? You ever notice that? My brother noticed that in his younger brother. He said, man, I've known you all my life because you're my brother, man, but sometimes you never cease to amaze me. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, when you go into seduction mode, you change. I said, what do you mean? He said, if nothing else, man, your eyes, man. Your eyes. It's like they take on that animal instinct. What's the key word? Instinct. I'm all about instinct, man. That's what men pay me thousands of dollars to teach them how to get in tune with their own inner animal and animal instinct. I don't give a fuck about no research data. If you want to pay attention to all that shit, good luck. See how much pussy you get from reading research data and scientific research data. Now, I bring it up from time to time if I needed to support an argument of mine. So I wouldn't say I totally ignore it 100%. But when it comes, like those basketball players said, Mike Tyson had a similar thing. He said about, I don't remember the exact words, so I'm probably going to misquote him a little bit, but he said, some opponents I've had have had the best preparation in the world, the best strategic planning in the world. But once my fist landed on their face, all that shit went out the window. See, it's a big difference, man, between reading all that research data shit and actually being in the company of a woman and knowing what the fuck to do. Now, I don't want to pick on nerds because a lot of my clients are nerds. But that said, that's what makes nerds nerds. That's why one of the reasons why a lot of people refer to certain highly intellectual type guys as nerds, because they put a lot of emphasis on paper knowledge. Academic knowledge, on paper knowledge, as opposed to shit that comes from their real life. See, the advice I give comes from my real life experiences with women. It don't come from no surveys. It don't come from no scientific studies. It comes from shit I've actually experienced. I've said this story a million times, but I'm going to say it again. There was a guy I worked with in LA, and that was his compliment to me. We were wrapping up our one-on-one face-to-face coaching session, and then he just looked at me, and I said, why are you looking at me? And he nodded his head. He said, man, I love you, Alan, man. You're a great dating coach. I said, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. He said, no, I really mean that. He said, the thing I like about you compared to some other PUAs I know about is I can tell from listening to you that you've been in the trenches. You've experienced the shit you're talking about. That's how I make my money, man. I don't make my money talking about, well, I surveyed 75 women and they said, and I, sent out a survey to 1,500 women in 10 different countries and they said, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. Now, make no mistake. I would dare anybody to say that Alan Roger Currie is not an intelligent brother. I dare any of y'all to say that. So just because I ain't into all that evolutionary psychology shit don't mean I'm a dumbass. But what it means, and I can speak for at least one other probably two other dating coaches, because I know Stevie D. Williams, he feels the same way, and David X feels the same way, man. We ain't about all that shit, man. All that, what this study said, and what this research survey said. Because most of the motherfuckers conducting them studies and surveys, they ain't fucking. They ain't getting no pussy. Shit. I speak from real life experiences, man. So if some of you all who are potential clients of mine, because my current clients, I already know how I roll, so it ain't no big deal to them. But if you're a potential client, like say you're on the fence, like you thinking about paying for a consultation session or coaching session, but your biggest contention with me is, well, Alan doesn't back up enough what he says with the findings and data of evolutionary psychologists, I say don't follow me then. Period. Simple solution. Don't follow me then. If that's your major contention. But back to this YouTube host who took jabs at me for not emphasizing data. I still ask the $1 million question. If I'm such a flawed individual, and more specifically, such a flawed dating coach, why in the fuck were you promoting my shit for 18 plus months? Why? Why were you promoting my shit? Motherfucker, my books that you say can sell themselves, even though you always breaking your neck begging me to offer to help me sell them. I know your heart's still broken because I told you I would never do business with you. You need to get over that, man. You need to get over that, man. You starting to act like a little woman, man. Even a couple of your listeners. I've seen your comment section. You try to ignore these comments, but some of your own followers have said to you, why you always talking about Alan, man? Dang, man, you look like a jilted lover. And I can't disagree with them dudes saying that to you. Asking me my zodiac sign. Oh, were you disappointed when you found out I wasn't a Sagittarius? Oh, poor baby. You ain't no daisy, motherfucker. You ain't no daisy. And I'm your huckleberry. Believe that, bitch. And herein concludes the free portion. And now I'm going to talk to my exclusive Patreon subscribers about introducing sex talk, whether it's in a face-to-face conversation or a phone sex conversation. Stay tuned. Hashtag for this scientific data, don't get your dick sucked. How's that for a hashtag today? Hashtag scientific data, don't get your dick sucked. You better believe that shit. Ain't no male porn star successful in his porno career because he paid attention to what evolutionary psychology said in their research data. Ain't no motherfucker who's a gigolo, been successful as a gigolo, or a street pimp successful as a street. You think Iceberg Slim became successful because he paid attention to what evolutionary psychology said? What research data said? Hell no. I'm all about my instincts. I'm in touch with my inner animal. Are you?
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.